You know what keeps me up at night? How do we reconcile a government that calls boat wreckage survivors threats, while pardoning fraudsters who robbed veterans blind? The smell hits you first. That particular stench of bullshit so concentrated it could strip paint off walls. Picture standing in a room where someone's taken a steaming shit on the Constitution, lit it on fire, and then insisted you call it a freedom bonfire. That's what watching KK Caroline Leavitt's press conferences feel like. Here's the scene. November 2024, and Donaldo Fart-Fisted's press secretary stands at a podium dropping President Biden's name 24 times in a half-hour rant that spends approximately 2 minutes on actual presidential schedule information. The rest? A masterclass in xenophobic scapegoating, war crime denial, and the kind of transparent lying that would make a used car salesman blush. The great enemy of truth is very often not the lie, deliberate, contrived, and dishonest, but the myth, persistent, persuasive, and unrealistic. John F. Kennedy. But what happens when the myth isn't just unrealistic, it's actively murderous? When the lie becomes policy, and policy becomes a double tap on survivors clinging to wreckage in international waters. The Afghan Scapegoat Express. All aboard the racist bullshit train. Let me paint you a picture of how fascism markets itself these days. A National Guardsman gets attacked. Tragedy, absolutely. The perpetrator? An Afghan national who came to the United States in 2021 during the withdrawal from Afghanistan. You know, that clusterfuck withdrawal organized by the same administration now blaming Biden for it. But KK Caroline, bless her bigoted little heart, calls these refugees imported by Biden. Imported, like fucking furniture, like these are human beings who didn't spend 2 decades helping American forces navigate a country we destroyed with our endless war machine. Translators, field operatives, people who risked their lives because they believed our propaganda about freedom and democracy. The pattern of dehumanization. She claims 100,000 Afghans were recklessly released without vetting, conveniently ignoring that many underwent more rigorous screening than your average white tourist from France. She uses the language of infestation, imported, released, flagged, terminology you'd use for livestock or invasive species, not human beings fleeing the consequences of American imperialism. She frames every terrorist attack as proof that all refugees are dangerous, the same logic that would condemn every white man after a school shooting if we applied it consistently. Translation: brown people who helped us fight our wars are now convenient scapegoats for a fascist administration that needs an enemy to justify militarized borders and concentration camps. When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. Viktor Frankl. Except this douche-waffle administration isn't interested in changing situations or themselves. They're interested in changing the definition of war crime to self-defense. The Venezuelan boat massacre, a war crime. By any other fucking name, here's where my stomach turns itself inside fucking out. A reporter asks KK Caroline how it's legal to double-tap a vessel, military speak for shooting at something twice to ensure it's destroyed, when the boat is already sunk and survivors are just holding on to debris, clearly no longer a threat to anyone except maybe some passing dolphins who might trip over their floating bodies. Her answer? It was self-defense. Also international waters, so we're good. Let that sink in. Survivors, holding, wreckage, shot at again. Because they were a threat. The receipts from naval law. The Navy's own laws of engagement explicitly prohibit attacking enemy combatants who are hors de combat, French for out of the fight, which includes shipwrecked survivors who are no longer capable of hostility. This is codified in the Geneva Conventions, which the United States is a signatory to, making this a textbook fucking war crime. But KK Caroline, with the confidence of someone who's never had to consider consequences in her privileged life, simply says it wasn't illegal over and over like a broken dipshit robot programmed exclusively to lie. And why did they commit this war crime? Because the boat was allegedly carrying drugs, fentanyl specifically. She claims that during the last administration, her Orwellian way of never saying Biden's name despite mentioning him 24 times, enough fentanyl was trafficked to kill every man, woman, and child many times over. The great masses of the people will more easily fall victims to a big lie than to a small one. Hannah Arendt. This is your brain on drug war propaganda. This is what happens when pharmaceutical companies create the opioid crisis, profit billions from addiction, face minimal consequences, and then the government militarizes against poor brown people moving product to meet the demand those same companies created. The opioid crisis autopsy. When the real cartels wear suits, the specific hypocrisy that deserves an autopsy. Donnie Caligula's administration claims they're fighting narco-terrorism by committing war crimes against Venezuelan boat operators. They're tough on drugs. They're protecting American lives from the fentanyl epidemic. Except, and I cannot stress this clusterfuck enough, the opioid crisis that's killing 8,000 plus Americans annually was created by American pharmaceutical companies who knowingly pushed addictive pills, lied about their safety, and bribed doctors to overprescribe them for profit. The evidence speaks. Purdue Pharma, owned by the Sackler family, aggressively marketed OxyContin, knowing it was highly addictive, resulting in billions in profits and hundreds of thousands of deaths. When prescription opioids became harder to get, people turned to heroin and fentanyl, creating the market these narco-terrorists serve. The Sacklers paid a fine that was a fraction of their profits, admitted no wrongdoing, and kept most of their fortune. Meanwhile, poor Venezuelans get double-tapped in international waters for moving the product that American corporate greed made profitable. This isn't drug policy. This is class warfare with a body count, where the architects of mass death get bankruptcy protection, while brown people in boats get executed without trial. The synthesis is fuck all clear. We have a system that protects pharmaceutical executives who create addiction epidemics while murdering the symptom, the small-time operators serving the demand those companies manufactured, and calling it fighting terrorism. The opposite of poverty is not wealth. The opposite of poverty is justice. Brian Stevenson. The Truth Portal, Ministry of Information, Orwell called, wants his dystopia. Back she gets asked about the White House launching a fake news portal, because nothing says transparent democracy like the government maintaining an official list of which journalism to believe. KK Caroline says they need to hold the media accountable for all the fake stories. She literally says, the fake news that we see pumped out of this building on a day-to-day basis, it's honestly overwhelming to keep up with it all. Let me translate that for you. Reporters keep asking questions about our lies, and it's exhausting having to make up new lies to cover the old lies. She pulls out printed headlines about Biden's fitness, claiming the media lied about him being okay. And yeah, they probably did soft pedal some of his decline. But here's the fuckstick irony. She's using press conferences to lie about war crimes, refugee policy, and medical records while complaining about media dishonesty. When asked if Trump will release his MRI results, she says, "Everything was perfectly normal. No congestive heart failure, no clots. I think that's quite a bit of detail. Total transparency." That's not transparency, you absolute shit stain. Transparency is releasing the actual medical records. What you're doing is called trust me bro governance, and it's the opposite of transparency. The real Ministry of Truth. They call fact-checking censorship. They call journalism fake news. They call war crimes self-defense. They call refugees imports. They call fraud persecution. She mentions Trump pardoned a Mr. Gentile of GBP Capital Holdings, who defrauded farmers, veterans, and blue-collar workers in what prosecutors called a Ponzi scheme. When asked why, KK Caroline says Biden made up that it was a Ponzi scheme. Reporter: so you're saying people weren't defrauded? KK Caroline: I just gave you a detailed summary. Next question. That's not a summary, you dumb fuck. That's a dismissal. Those farmers and veterans, the people you dipshits claim to care about, lost their savings. but the guy who took it gets a pardon because he's connected. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Martin Luther King Jr. What we've chosen. The stench of complicity. The pattern is fuck all clear. We have a government that murders boat survivors, pardons white-collar criminals who rob veterans, bans refugees fleeing persecution while making exceptions for white South African Afrikaneers claiming victimhood, and then has the audacity to create a truth portal to tell us which reality to believe. Not inconsistent policy. Not controversial decisions. Fascist infrastructure being normalized through press conferences, where spokespeople lie with the confidence of people who know there will be no consequences. These same shitstains who claim to fear terrorism are the ones committing war crimes against shipwrecked survivors, protecting pharmaceutical executives whose greed created addiction epidemics, pardoning fraudsters who steal from veterans, calling Afghan translators who helped us imports while giving refugee status to white South Africans. The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. Theodore Parker. What does it say about us that we watch this press secretary stand at a podium, drop Biden's name 24 times in 36 minutes, defend war crimes, deny refugee protections, and lie about medical transparency, and the biggest controversy is whether the media is being mean to them? The stain will leave. Wreckage and lies. That smell of bullshit on fire? It's not going away. It's the new normal. Tomorrow, Trumpington de Shitty-Gobhole will commit another outrage, KK Caroline will defend it with doublespeak, and the same goddamn masses will scroll past it while wondering why everything feels so fucked. But that's not how it has to be. That's just how it is when we accept that war crimes are self-defense, when we let press secretaries define truth, when we forget that refugees are human beings and pharmaceutical executives are the real drug lords. The question isn't whether this administration is lying. They objectively are, provably on camera, multiple times per conference. The question is whether we're going to keep pretending that pointing out lies makes us biased while watching them build the infrastructure for atrocity, one press conference at a time. 200+ AI side hustles to start. Right now, AI isn't just changing business. It's creating entirely new income opportunities. The Hustle's Guide features 200+ ways to make money with AI, from beginner-friendly gigs to advanced ventures. Each comes with realistic income projections and resource requirements. Join 5M professionals getting daily insights on emerging tech and business opportunities. Get the guide.